Hello, I'm Dr. Randa Bell. Welcome to Core IQ, where we're going to talk about etiquette. Now, this may sound like something that's not that big of a deal, but it's a big deal, and I think that'll become clear as we kind of talk about it. And to talk about it, I have none other than Jill Pillsbury, who we've worked with together for a while, and I've known you for many years. And of all people, I think, to address this topic, I think you're the best, because it's quite clear you have a sense of etiquette. And when I run into your kids, they're always so polite. Clearly, you're teaching them something. And I frankly, I'm here to learn how to kind of up the game on etiquette. I think I know the basics, but I think you can fill in some gaps.
All right, we'll see what we can do.
Let's talk about this stuff. Let's just go through first. I thought we'd talk about workplace manners, then we'll talk about introduction manners when we talk to someone, then we'll finish with table manners. Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds great.
Okay, so what do we got?
So workplace manners, first we have dress conservatively. And it's always better to be over rather than underdressed.
Yeah. It's so true. Because like when I go to a meeting, I'd rather have a tie than be the one guy without a tie. That kind of thing.
Exactly. And err on the side of dressing conservatively, especially in the workplace. You know, we all have our different definitions of what may seem appropriate, but again, you need to be more understated probably, and just a good conservative look is better than pushing the boundaries.
Yeah, you know, I've done a lot of stuff in Hollywood. In fact, I had one thing where I went to all the networks and met all the networks, and you think Hollywood's going to be really crazy and wild. Actually, you go into their offices, and they're reasonably conservatively dressed. I think it'd be surprising to a lot of people.
Right. It's a first impression that you make when you walk in and someone, you know, you're presenting yourself in an environment. So to be super trendy or, you know, super fashion forward, consider your audience, consider your environment, and generally speaking, safe to err on the side of being conservative.
Yeah, exactly. I only know one guy that dresses, you know, flamboyantly, but he's got so much money he doesn't care.
Right. And you can always move toward that once you're in an environment where you're comfortable and it's your workplace, and you get a feel for the attitude and culture.
Yeah. So what do we got next?
Over prepare. Bring anything you think you might need: additional paperwork, clothes, materials, etc. It's always better to have it than to leave something at home or go in and be unprepared. So that's pretty self-explanatory, but what do you think, Randy?
Well, I think that, like, when we're having a meeting, if someone shows up without a yellow pad or a pen or some way to take notes, that seems a little sloppy. You know, when we go to meetings, you know, outside of the office, it's not only that, plus having business cards. We kind of want to think things through rather than just kind of showing up and going, oh, I forgot that. Right. I mean, occasionally we forget, but to be on our game, we need to remember that stuff.
Yeah, and that just goes along with be prepared.
Yeah.
Over prepare.
Yeah, okay.
Third one on our list is avoid gossip and foul language.
Yeah.
And I think this is really important, especially in the workplace. Again, you're not at home. You need to remember that you're in a group setting. And so you need to have some extra formality maybe with that. And so gossiping and negative energy can be toxic, and people can sort of want to then shy away from you. It doesn't lend itself very well to people around you or to yourself.
Yeah, totally. It's a buzzkill. And I've seen embarrassing situations where someone will say, well, you know, making jokes about someone in jail. Well, not knowing that person had a relative in jail. I mean, you got to be careful because you don't know everything about people, and you got to really dial that back.
Exactly. You're not at home. You're in a group setting.
Yeah.
Address conflicts with a calm temperament.
Yeah, we're going to have an episode entirely on conflict resolution, but I think the big picture is that there are going to be issues, but they've got to be addressed. You don't want to bottle it inside, but they got to be addressed in a calm way.
Right.
So what's the next one we got, Jill?
So the next one, Randy, says keep a clean and organized workstation.
Yeah.
Very important.
And sometimes I do better jobs than others on that, but that's really essential. You know, I wrote this book, and I got out there, and I got a letter from an attorney at a very large, prestigious firm. He says, you know, I read your book, And a lot of it I already knew, but the part where you talked about keeping your office clean really hit home. I came in over the weekend. I cleaned my whole space up. My secretary came in on Monday and she was just freaked out.
Right.
But I'm so more productive with that.
Right. If you're disorganized, you may miss a deadline, you can't find things, it can be a time zapper. So again, pretty common sense, but clean it up if it's not clean already, and then try to keep it clean. Keep the clutter off.
Yeah.
Allow others to contribute to conversations.
Yeah, I think we've all been in meetings where people dominate over the whole thing, and that's no fun.
Right.
I think just saying what you need to say and then stopping.
Yeah. Well, and
good
the old
idea.
adage too that, sometimes the person that's the most quiet really has the most valuable things to say, or is the smartest person in the room. I'm not that you shouldn't ask questions, but again, it kind of ties into the last point that we made here, which is listen. Those two sort of go hand in hand.
Yeah, there's a story about George Washington at the delegation where they formed the Declaration of Independence and all that. And Washington was in charge of the whole thing. And you know how many times he basically spoke during the whole delegation?
I don't know.
Once. At the
Wow.
very end where he says, I think we're kind of done.
Yeah.
And so he had all the control, he had all the power, he had the position, but he spoke very, very little.
Right.
And I don't think that story is too far off from the actual truth.
No,
of
and
what happened.
it goes back to respect. You're in
Yeah.
a group setting. You need to respect your peers and give them ample time to kind of ask questions and voice their opinion too.
Yeah, bingo. Good. Okay. So I think that kind of covers the basics of workplace manners. Anything else that comes to mind, or are those the main points?
No, I think those are the main points. Not to overwhelm, but again, just to really highlight the key issues and create awareness.
Okay, perfect. So let's switch over now to introduction manners. And what's your first point there?
Smile and help make conversation.
Okay. Yeah.
Super important, right? You're putting yourself out there, you're meeting someone for the first time. This is your chance to present yourself in a positive way. And
Yeah.
so, you don't need to be a puppy dog coming on strong, but just, a nice friendly smile goes
Yeah.
a long way.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I happen to know someone and his girlfriend just doesn't smile, doesn't say anything, and you don't know, are they miserable? What's going on?
Yeah.
I mean, it makes you uncomfortable if you're not, pleasant and contributing a little bit to the conversation.
Right, uncomfortable. It's not a one-sided deal. It almost in some ways, we're not all extroverts, but in some ways it can be misconstrued as rude to
Yeah.
not smile, not engage in conversation. You're really putting the burden on the other people to keep the conversation going or to be sitting in dead silence. So do your part and ask a few questions.
I notice when I run into your kids, for real, that they look you in the eye, they shake your hand, they say, hello, Mr. Bell, or whatever. Is that something that just kind of happened, or was that something you taught them?
No, I think that, as a parent, those are really important to me and to my husband. And so it doesn't just happen.
Right.
Reminding your kids, no matter how old, before you go out, before you're meeting people, hey, look Mr. Bell in the eye, shake his hand, smile, make some conversation, engage.
Yeah.
And then the reverse is true also. Compliment your kids. You've been out, you've been in a social setting. Hey, nice job, Charlie. When you met Mr. Bell, you did a great job.
Yeah. Well, whatever you've done, or whatever you're putting in their cornflakes, keep it going. 'Cause
Thanks. I
your kids are
appreciate
very
that.
polite.
Always nice to hear. Always
Okay.
nice to hear.
What's our next one?
Always stand when meeting or greeting someone.
Yeah.
So again, you want to convey the message to someone that you're genuinely interested in meeting them and saying hello, and to just sit down like a bump on a log kind of shows a lack of respect. And again, it doesn't really help to engage that moment.
Yeah, so let me ask you an interesting question, because I was taught as a kid, whenever a lady enters the room,
Right.
or you're at a table and a lady stands up, you stand up. Has that rule changed with the new kind of
Hashtag me too.
Yeah.
Randy, that's a tricky one. Same thing with keeping a door open, right? Opening
Right.
a door. My husband still stands when I come or go at a table,
Right.
and I really like that. So I almost think that it's up to you as the individual. I think it's just a sign of respect, and it's a formality. I like and would train my boys to do that. And on the same token, my daughter, she's seen it, role modeled at our house. So if someone were to do that for her, I don't think she would take offense to that.
Okay.
Times are changing. They're always changing and evolving. I think you as an individual need to decide, how you want to present yourself. And it's kind of the, more may be better if it's not misconstrued.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll always open the door for, a woman or a lady, going through the door. And I think I'm going to kind of stick with that until, there's some revelation otherwise.
Yeah.
Okay.
Use a firm handshake with 1 or 2 pumps.
Okay, so let's demonstrate let's start with a bad one. What's wrong with that? The wet fish thing?
Oh, not good.
No.
Not good.
Oh, yeah.
For men or women, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's no reason why women, when you're in a business setting, you can't go in. In fact, I would suggest that, to be able to, hi, I'm Jill Pillsbury, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. And that's essential, because it's amazing how many kind of wet fish handshakes I've gotten.
Yeah.
I teach my kids the same thing, firm, but you don't want to, be Charles Atlas and kill someone, but.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But it's so easy. Just be aware.
Gotcha. Okay.
Keep hands out of pockets and uncrossed. So again, it goes back to engaging or shutting yourself down. This kind of body language is saying, I'm not really that interested in you or being here or what you have to say.
I think we're going to have an episode at some point about body language, because I remember reading a book on the topic in high school, or if you're sitting like this, that's a bad deal. I mean, it means I don't believe what you're saying. I'm like not buying it.
Right.
And we may not mean to convey that message. Whereas a little more being aware of our things. Putting your hands over your mouth also means I'm skeptical of you, and we got to be aware of that, because we don't want to send the wrong message.
Right. Again, these are introductions. These are encounters where you're opening your space up to someone else.
Okay. So what do we got next?
Use titles like Mr. and Mrs.
Right.
If meeting for the first time. Again, this just kind of goes back to that conservative, erring on the side of formality. I think it's just sort of a no-brainer.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Okay, good. Next one.
Remember names.
Yeah, that's a big one.
It's big, it's important, it can be tricky.
Yeah, and so I don't know what tricks you got up your sleeve, but when I meet someone for the first time, I heard somewhere, I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard if you repeat the name in your mind 6 times, you're more likely to remember it.
Okay.
So if someone, Fred comes along and I repeat Fred. Also, when I'm in a business meeting, as everybody's introducing themselves, I write their names down, and during the meeting, I will kind of repeat it back. So at the end of the meeting, I can say, nice to meet you, Fred, and Sally, and Jill, and Tom, and everyone.
Right, that's a great trick. If you, in that situation that you have the opportunity to write something down. Another good trick is before you are going into a meeting where there are going to be people you've met before, or to a social gathering, with a partner or a spouse or a child, play the name game. My husband and I do that often when we're on our way out and there's going to be a large group of people we should know. We will sort of run it by, okay, Joe's wife is Sally, right? And get it in your head again. It's okay, we all forget names. And it's also not a bad thing to just remind someone of your name.
Yeah.
Right from the get-go, and that may prompt them to say their name.
It's funny you say that, because I was eating at a restaurant over the weekend, and Spike, we know from the neighborhood, came up and he said, "Hey, Randy, it's Spike." And I mean, of course I knew it was Spike, but it was polite because I hadn't seen him in several months. And I thought, well, that was kind of polite because, I would have remembered his name, but, because it's been several months, it was polite. And then I introduced him to everyone around the table. And
I do that all the time, actually. I really do. Because I think, again, we're only human. We all forget people's name.
Yeah. Okay, good. What else we got?
Maintain eye contact. Another important one. You're really listening to someone. You're present with someone if you're looking at them while they speak.
Yeah, and also when you're talking to someone, rather than formulating your response, maybe you ought to just, I'm speaking more to myself, it's important for me to, rather than jumping in with my response, to just listen. I mean, eye contact, but beyond that, really listen to what they're saying and try and get what their point of view is before, coming up with my point of view.
Right. Exactly right. Exactly right.
Okay.
Keep a distance of about 1 to 2 feet between you and the individual.
Okay, we're about right.
Yeah, and I think, the old adage is personal space.
Yeah.
Someone comes too close, you're like, whoa, back off, dude.
Yeah.
Someone standing a mile away, that's hard to navigate also. So
Yeah.
I think common sense says, a comfortable space, 1 to 2 feet.
Yeah. I think that is basically, this is not rocket science.
No.
It's astounding how many people don't do these things in business. Frankly, it's kind of embarrassing, when I don't do them or I see someone else not doing them. But the rules for workplace manners and introduction manners are pretty simple.
Yes.
And reminding ourselves of them, even though you and I have been in business for many years and know the game, it's always good to kind of brush up on, at least for me, brush up on this stuff.
For everyone.
Okay, good. Now we're going to go to the biggie, table manners, because that's the one that really gets people nervous.
Right, which I don't really understand because it's not that complicated. So hopefully today, Randy, we can break it down and make the idea of table manners really user-friendly.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if I've shared this with you, but I used to be a busboy at Mr. Stock's, that real formal restaurant up by Anaheim Stadium where the Angels play. And after the Angel games, the players would come in and eat. I was the guy that not only busted tables, but I also was the guy that caught the lobsters.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that was kind of fun. But, I learned how to set a table, and I also learned, some of the basics. And, when I was with a big, huge consulting firm, there were some guys who were really brilliant, but their table manners were just like train wrecks.
Right.
And honestly, I'm just going to be really blunt. It was so embarrassing with clients. It could wreck a deal.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I'll demonstrate, some of the don't do these things. One guy would take a piece of bread, and he put butter all over the whole thing. And then the whole time he's eating with his fork, he had his piece of bread on his elbow on the table, and he'd just take a bite, and it was always there, the whole piece. And it was like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Yeah. When I work with the people coming out of prison in my volunteer work, honestly, these guys are sincere, good people. They want to fly straight. They want to get jobs. They want to do good things. But then I've sat at the dinner table with them. Some of them have really very good manners.
Right.
And some of them, don't. And so what we want to do is kind of go over the basics and first kind of stress why it's so important and then go over what the basics are. But let's start with this, Joe. Why would you say this is so important?
Well, I think it is a way to put yourself kind of out there. And again, it goes back to impressions.
Yeah.
Whether you're in a work environment, you're in a social gathering, it's just important.
Yeah.
It just flat out is important. We do a lot of eating. We eat 3 times a day. And I think what's fun about it is that if you've never been taught the basics, they're super simple. And so I'm kind of excited to talk about just the simple things. You can get far with a few basic skills. You don't need, there's a million books that have been written on this subject. You don't need really all of that. If you do and you want to take it that far, great. But really with just a few basic skills that you practice at home, with your family, with your partner, with your roommate, on your own, it's just a good practice.
Yeah, and I don't think it's so much about saying, hey, look at me, look how artful and the etiquette I have. I think it's more about showing respect to others.
Yeah.
Saying, you know what, it's not about me, it's more like I respect you enough to pay attention to these things.
Right.
And that's the way I
think you're exactly right.
Okay, so the first one is?
Place your napkin on lap when first seated.
Yeah.
So again, you're sitting down. It should be an enjoyable, relaxing time. It can be stressful, but again, knowing the basics, this is basic number 1. Sit down, assess your situation, napkin, on your lap.
Yeah, that's the number one thing to do. Now, sometimes when I was kind of taught etiquette, because my mom, believe it or not, sent me off to an etiquette thing in Ladera Vista Junior High School, which some retain. But I was taught, certainly before the food comes. But I think the safer thing is when you first sit down, put the napkin on your table. But sometimes I forget, and sometimes I wait, and then when the food comes, or you order, then you do. But I think I like your rule better.
Yeah, I think it's a safe bet. It kind of signals to the waiting staff that you're settling in and you're kind of ready to order and start your meal. Yeah. And again, at home, whether it's immediate or when everyone's seated and you're just getting ready to eat. I think either way. But again, to have an awareness, that's such a simple thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it sets the tone.
Yeah, and napkins should never be left on the table. Absolutely. They should be in your lap. And if it falls to the ground, ask the server for a new one.
Right.
But that's the basics with the napkin.
Right. And I think the rule of thumb is that your napkin stays on your lap or in your chair. If you have to get up and go to the restroom or make a call and excuse yourself, your napkin doesn't go on the table, as you say, Randy, it goes on your chair.
Yeah. Okay, good. So what's the next one we got?
Wait for everyone to be seated and served before you start eating.
Yeah.
Again, this is like the 1-2 punch. You sit down, you're engaged, your napkin goes on your lap. Super simple. Don't start eating until everyone has been served, and at the least until everyone is seated at the table.
Okay, now I've also heard that if you're on there's a big birthday party and there's 15 people at the table, I've heard that you can start eating if the people on both sides of you have been served. Have you heard that rule? What do you think about that?
I haven't really, but I it's probably just a matter of semantics, and that could be really in the same vein of someone saying, usually the host or hostess, please go ahead and eat.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it's fine.
Yeah.
But you've acknowledged and you've respected that you're not just going to sit down and start eating while everyone else is waiting for their food.
Yeah, that's not very polite. Okay, good. So what do we got next?
Take cues from your host and the environment, i.e., eat at their pace, follow their lead.
That, if you're going to forget everything we've talked about, that is a way to cheat through this whole thing and come out successfully.
Right.
I remember when I was just out of college and I'm starting to have business meetings with, important people for the very first time. And, someone reminded me of that exact rule, and it made it all easy. I would sit down, and if they took their napkin, put it in their lap, I just kind of watched what they did.
Right.
And if they used this utensil or that utensil, I would just kind of follow along. Pressure off.
Right. Exactly. That's always, it's always a safe bet.
Yeah.
Don't panic. There's other people around you.
Yeah, and just what they do, you do, and then you know that you've got good manners, or at least...
Well, as long as the people you're with have good manners.
Yeah. That was,
or they're not waiting to follow your lead.
Right, yeah. Okay, good. So what's our next one?
Use silverware furthest from the plate first and work your way in.
Yeah.
On that note, I would add, I just want to put a little tip in for knowing how to set a proper table.
Yeah.
I think that's a valuable skill.
Okay, so Jill, we've kind of put together a place setting to demonstrate this. Does this all look set right to you?
Yeah, it looks great.
Okay, so we've got a dinner plate, of course. We have a salad fork, our main dinner fork, of course, our napkin, dessert spoon, a knife, and a spoon for soup. Then we have a soup bowl and a salad plate. This can also be used for dessert or for butter and bread, but they're usually out here somewhere. So we sit down, what's the very first thing we do?
Napkin in the lap.
Boom. Okay, so we take our napkin, we put it away on our lap. Okay, so we're good to go. And let's say we order a salad. Normally, at least what I've seen, the server comes and puts the salad here like this. Is that what you normally see?
Yep, exactly right.
So we pick up the salad fork. We do not hold it like this. That's a no-no. We hold our fork like this.
Exactly.
Any thoughts there?
Just a good reminder. You're working outside in and small fork, small plate, salad.
Okay. Now let's say you're eating this salad. I don't know about you, but have you ever had a salad and you get some whopping huge chunk of lettuce?
All the time.
So how do you handle that?
That's where your knife comes in.
Okay. So you switch hands, you pick up your knife, and you cut the salad like this.
Yep.
You put the knife down like that. Did
Perfect.
that look okay to you?
That looked perfect.
Okay, so you've eaten your salad. Once a knife has been used, this is usually the resting place for the knife. The blade should go in,
Yep.
not out, okay? That's just generally considered bad manners to have your knife going out.
Yep, that's
yeah.
right. You want to keep your space organized.
Yeah. And now we're ready to eat our soup. If we're going to have soup, normally the server puts the bowl here. We have our soup, and it's normally polite to scoop away from us. Have you heard that?
I have heard that.
Okay. I've also, in the etiquette book my mom made me read, when you're down to the last bit and you're really enjoying it and you want it all, you tip the bowl slightly away from you. I don't know if you've heard the same thing.
I think that's a great tip.
Okay. That's what I was taught.
Okay.
Okay. So we're done with our soup. Off it goes. And now we're ready to eat dinner or lunch or whatever. And we use this fork again. We hold the fork like this, elbows off the table, never like this. And we take small bites, we do our thing. When we're eating and we want to set down our knife and our fork, but we're still eating, this is usually the sign that we're still eating. In other words, don't take my plate, I'm still eating. Is that what you get?
Yes, I mean it's been used, so you don't want your knife. You're not going to put it back down on your placemat or the table. You're going to find a resting place that's
Right.
organized on your plate. I just want to remind everyone that the knife can be used to cut food,
Right.
but also used to help position food
Yeah.
better on your fork. You don't
Yeah.
want to scooch something that you're chasing on your plate onto your
Yeah.
fork with your
No,
fingers.
That's a no. Don't do that. Okay? Do this.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
Okay, good
Much
point.
better.
Okay, so we've enjoyed a nice lunch, a nice dinner, and we're all done. Now what?
And now to signal that you're done, you want to move your fork and knife together to 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
So if your plate were a clock face,
Yeah.
4 o'clock lower right corner is where they should be positioned together.
Exactly. That tells the server, if the server's well trained, and not all are, that we're finished eating.
Right, and it just looks more presentable. Whoever's going to clear your plate, even if you're not at a restaurant, even if you're home or you're a guest in someone's house, when they go to pick up your plate, you don't have a fork and a knife falling all over the place.
Yeah. Okay, another thing is the bread. The bread's a big thing. The last thing you want to do is start eating a whole piece of bread. That's a big no-no. So what normally you do is you take the bread and you break it down into more bite-sized pieces, and then you kind of work on this piece. You take a piece and you take some butter and you put on the bread and have one bite at a time. Normally you take the butter from the big butter serving and put it on the corner of the plate there, and then go from here, and then you just kind of have, a small bite at a time. And basically you leave the bread on the bread plate, and your resting place for the knife is just like it is when you're having dinner. And normally your bread plate is off in this direction somewhere. So we start with the outside utensils. We've talked about how to hold your utensils. Now if you're right-handed, your fork goes in your right hand and your knife is used and then set down. Well, it's not held in your hand the whole time, generally speaking. Okay, so what do we got next, Jill?
Use napkin to keep your hands and face clean.
So after you have a big bite of salad, you take out the napkin and dab it, put it back in your nap, right?
Yeah, exactly. Pretty obvious. You've got food on your hands and mouth. Keep yourself together.
Okay.
Maintain good posture and eat slowly. Keep noise at a minimum.
Yeah. Sit up straight. Don't slouch.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
basic, right? Eat slowly. You don't want to necessarily be the first one done. You don't want to be so pokey that everybody's waiting on you to finish either.
Yeah.
So
And small bites.
small bites so that you're not chewing with your mouth full.
Yeah, you don't want to be like an anaconda snake and dislodge your jaw to get some huge bite and just small bites. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And keep noise at a minimum. You're not, clanking your silverware and your glass. And again, it's sort of keep your space organized and somewhat tidy.
Right, and although it's not on the list here, it's considered generally bad manners to touch or hold or move your plate. The server should do that. Your server puts the plate down, the server picks it up, and so trying to move that around too much is generally a bad idea.
That's a good one. Don't speak with your mouth full is our last one. And obvious, I know, but sometimes easy to forget.
Yeah.
You take a bite of food, you get excited, you want to talk, share, answer a question. You got food going every which way. Just be mindful. Before we move off table manners, Randy, I just wanted to add a little plug to practice at home, because these things, again, they're so simple, they'll become second nature. And they will also enhance your time at home, whether you sit down as a family to have dinner. You've been so complimentary about my children. And, we make dinner time a priority. We set the table. Mm-hmm. One of my kids will set the table. If somebody has their elbow on the table or their napkins on their lap, we'll call you out, know. And so these skills are so easy with a little bit of practice, whether it's with a roommate, even on your own. If you're making dinner for yourself a couple nights, set your table. Practice putting your napkin on your lap. The wrap up on this would be a huge lesson and important thing to me with my kids is you don't just sit there when you're done. If you're in someone's home, you offer to help. You help clear the plates. You help do the dishes. And that is just a given. Obviously, if you're in a restaurant, that's a little bit not an option. But at home, those basic skills so that when you're out or your kids are out, it's second nature.
I love that. And you mentioned elbows on the table. Bad idea. That's even worse than holding a fork like this.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sends a really, really bad signal.
Right. And again, don't wait till you're out in a formal situation, sort of feeling in a panic, like what are the things I'm supposed to remember? If you've been practicing them at home, they're second nature. You can sit down and eat with work peers or social guests with a lot of confidence.
Yeah. Now I've noticed that after all the dishes are cleared, you're done eating, and the waiter or servers come and cleared everything, that as you're sitting there talking about business things or something, you bring out your pads to take notes, elbows on the table, it takes a different dimension.
Sure.
But certainly during eating, bad idea.
Of course.
Okay. Anything else through the whole thing before?
No, I think we've covered a lot, but again, hopefully broken it down to keep it pretty simple.
Yeah, so those are the basics of manners. Essentially, in workplace manners, we want to be aware of others. You just review these concepts. Introduction, it's pretty straightforward. Table manners of the three is probably a little more intimidating. Again, the number one rule is follow the lead of your host. And just pay attention, practice at home, and you'll have it.
Yeah, exactly right.
Thanks, Jill, and thanks for watching. Make sure that you like and share Core IQ. We'll keep building the Core IQ of the world, and we'll see you next time.